Have you ever solved a Rubik's Cube? It's a familiar puzzle, right? The turning, twisting, and strategic thinking might seem like just a test of patience. But for some, the game is more than a challenge. It's a trigger for something much deeper: epileptic seizures. It's kind of bonkers, but researchers have uncovered that the rapidly shifting, contrasting patterns of the cube can, in rare cases, spark seizures. These events aren't caused by stress or exhaustion, but by the visual stimuli themselves. The brain, in its intricate design, processes these fast, dynamic patterns in a way that can cause an overload, triggering abnormal electrical activity. Think about this for a second. How do you experience the world around you? For most of us, it's a blur of stimuli, objects, patterns, sounds, colors, but we seldom stop to think about how these things interact with our brains. In fact, it's a bit like the puzzle itself, an enigma that often goes unnoticed until something breaks it open. The Rubik's Cube is one of those unassuming objects that holds a quiet mystery. When someone experiences a seizure triggered by it, it's a fascinating moment for science. It highlights the unseen ways in which our brains react to things we don't consciously focus on. What happens when a brain gets overloaded by what seems like just a series of moving colors? What's really happening in that moment? Now consider the bigger picture. Our brains are constantly processing complex information, often in the background. In our daily lives, we don't think much about the intricate interactions happening in our minds, but the Rubik's Cube invites us to question this. What is it about its rapid rotation, the constant shifting of color patterns, that might cause this reaction? Does the cube somehow mimic certain seizure-inducing visual stimuli? And how do our brains filter through that? The deeper mystery comes when we start to wonder about how our perception is shaped. We walk through life experiencing things, objects, movements, lights, sounds. But have you ever thought about how the brain decides which ones are significant and which are not? What might seem like an ordinary everyday object could actually hold keys to understanding the brain's wiring, and what happens when those connections go awry? So the Rubik's Cube isn't just a colorful puzzle, it's a window into a deeper neurological question. How much control do we really have over the complex processes in our own minds? We go about life as if everything is under control, but sometimes it's the simplest stimuli that remind us how much we don't truly understand. It's a humbling thought. How the brain, that incredible organ, can shift so dramatically in response to something as subtle as shifting patterns of color. What other hidden mysteries are lurking in the most ordinary of objects? And how many times have we brushed past these questions, unaware of the deeper stories they tell about the world around us?